You know that feeling when you really, really want to do something, but you hold back? Because you're just afraid of what people might think? Yeah, I've definitely been there. So today, we're going to dive into a book that tackles that feeling head on. It's Brené Brown's Daring Greatly, and we're going to be working from a fantastic summary to unpack some of its biggest, most powerful ideas. All right, let's get into it.
I mean, just think about it for a second. We're all kind of chasing perfection, right? Trying to achieve more, trying to feel secure. So the whole idea of being vulnerable, well, it just sounds terrifying, doesn't it? Like, why on earth would you want to open yourself up to risk and potentially getting hurt? But here's the thing. Brené Brown, after over a decade of research, comes along and makes this absolutely incredible argument. She says that vulnerability isn't something we should be avoiding at all. Actually, it's the total opposite. It's the very foundation, the birthplace of all the things we really crave in life. Courage, creativity, and that deep, meaningful connection. It's basically an invitation to completely rethink what it means to live a wholehearted life.
All right, so let's tackle the big one right away. How do we really see vulnerability? For most of us, I think it's fair to say there's this deep-down cultural belief that being vulnerable means being weak. But what Brené Brown's work does is it just completely flips that whole idea on its head.
And you can really see the contrast here. The common belief, the one we're all taught, is that vulnerability equals weakness. It means being fragile, it means failing. But then you have Brené's finding. And this is the big idea, right? She says, no. Vulnerability is the birthplace of all the good stuff. We're talking courage, innovation, love, real connection. It's a complete 180 from what we're used to thinking. It's pretty wild when you think about it.
So, what does this actually look like in our day-to-day lives? Well, it means taking those emotional risks, like finally telling someone how you really feel. Or it's about sharing that creative idea you've been hiding away, even though you're terrified people won't like it. It's all about facing the possibility that you might fail because, and this is key, that's the only way we can actually grow. Yeah, it's scary, for sure, but that's exactly where the depth and richness of life is found.
And look, this isn't just a nice idea. Brown backs all of this up with tons of powerful stories and really solid research. She shows us time and again that when we actually embrace our vulnerability, everything starts to change. We begin to show up, to really let ourselves be seen for who we are. And that right there, that's the moment vulnerability stops being this big liability and transforms into an incredible source of strength, one that empowers us to engage fully with our lives.
Okay, so you might be thinking, if being vulnerable is so great, why do we run from it like it's the plague? Well, there's one huge, massive reason, and it's something every single one of us experiences. That reason is shame. And according to Brown, you can't even begin to understand vulnerability until you get real about the role shame is playing in your life. Shame. It's that awful, gut-wrenching feeling that there's something fundamentally wrong with us. That deep down, we're just not good enough, not smart enough, not talented enough, just not worthy enough. It's that little voice inside your head that loves to whisper, "Who do you think you are?" right at the exact moment you're about to do something brave.
And the thing about shame is, it's everywhere. It pops up in our relationships, at our jobs, when we're trying to be creative, even in how we parent our kids. And its effects they're huge. It's what drives that need for perfectionism. It's what fuels our avoidance of risk. It's what creates that crippling self-doubt. And ultimately, what does all that do? It just blocks us from being vulnerable and prevents us from ever truly connecting with other people.
But, and this is a really important but, here's the good news. We don't have to let shame control us. Brené Brown actually gives us a roadmap for building what she calls shame resilience. It's basically a 3-step process. Step 1, you've got to recognize what your shame triggers are. Step 2, you have to practice self-compassion. Be kind to yourself when you're feeling it. And step 3, you need to reach out, engage with others, and practice empathy. That is the path. That's how we fight back and start living more authentically. All right, so we've talked about rethinking vulnerability, and we've talked about dealing with shame. So now, what's the goal? What are we actually aiming for here? Brown calls it wholehearted living, and honestly, it's a really beautiful, transformative idea.
So what exactly is wholehearted living? Well, let me tell you what it's not. It's not about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about showing up fully, just as you are, with all your courage, all your compassion, all your messiness. It's about embracing your imperfections and finally getting that being vulnerable isn't a weakness. In fact, it's the price you pay for admission to a truly meaningful life.
What this really means is that we have to make a choice, a fundamental choice. Are we going to engage with our lives, or are we going to avoid them?
Brown's message is clear. Lean in. Embrace all of it, even the messy parts, especially the messy parts. And when we finally make that choice, something pretty amazing starts to happen. We begin to feel more gratitude, more empathy, and way more joy. We actually start to live our lives purposefully.
Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Okay, this is all great for my personal life, but what about at work or with my family? Well, you're in luck, because Brown has a lot to say about that. Let's kick things off with leadership. We tend to think of leaders as these pillars of strength and control, right? But she comes at it from a totally different angle.
Brené argues that the most effective leaders are actually the most vulnerable ones. Think about it. They're the ones who build real trust, who foster innovation, who get people to truly collaborate. And how do they do it? It's pretty simple, actually. They're open about not having all the answers. They give credit where credit is due. They create an environment where everyone feels safe and valued. When a leader is willing to just be human, to admit when they've made a mistake, that's how you build a culture of genuine connection and amazing growth.
Okay, and what about parenting? Oh man, Brown says parenting is one of the most inherently vulnerable things any of us will ever do. Why? Because you show up for your kids day in and day out with absolutely zero guarantees. You don't know for sure if you're making the right calls, you're just doing your best and hoping it all works out. And so many of us get trapped in this idea of being the perfect parent, hiding our own struggles and fears.
But here's the invitation from Brené. Let go of that myth of the perfect parent. Just let it go. And what if instead we showed our kids what it actually looks like to be vulnerable? What if we modeled empathy and resilience for them? By being open with them, by setting healthy boundaries, by creating a home where it is 100% okay to be imperfect. That's how we can raise children who are courageous, compassionate, and truly deeply self-aware.
Okay, so we've covered what vulnerability is and why it's so dang important. But now, let's talk about where all of this happens. Brown uses this incredible metaphor to describe it, and she was inspired by that iconic Man in the Arena speech by Theodore Roosevelt. She calls this place the arena.
So what does it actually mean to step into the arena? It means choosing courage over comfort. Every time. It means taking that big risk, even when you have no idea how it's going to turn out. It's about showing up for your life, even when you're scared to death of what people will say from the sidelines. The arena, well, it could be that new project at work. It could be that really difficult conversation you've been avoiding. It could be that big, audacious dream you have. The arena is any place, anytime. We choose to be brave.
And here's the most crucial point of all. Daring greatly is not about winning. It's not about being perfect or never failing. It's simply about showing up, period. Even when you might fall flat on your face. It's about being willing to feel everything, the good, the bad, the joy, the pain, knowing that the rewards of true connection and real growth are always, always worth the risk.
This whole idea isn't just about us as individuals. The impact is so much bigger than that. These ideas, they have the power to change, well, everything. Our relationships, our workplaces, our entire communities. Just imagine it. When we all start to embrace vulnerability, we start to create a world with more empathy, more connection, and a whole lot less shame. We can literally build stronger, more compassionate communities. And that's a pretty amazing thought, isn't it?
So when you boil it all down, daring greatly is really just an invitation. It's an invitation for you to live a life that's maybe a little messier, yeah, but also a little braver and a whole lot more real. It gives you the tools and it gives you the inspiration to step into your arena, whatever that may be, and to just show up, to really, truly show up for your own life.
And remember, this isn't about some huge, heroic act. Daring greatly usually happens in the small, quiet moments. It's in the everyday choices we make to be just a little more vulnerable, a little more real with the people around us. So I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder. In your life, right now, what does it mean for you to dare greatly? Thanks so much for joining me for this deep dive.